What's going on? What is this all about? Because you were there, and Darren Moore was at the press conference without any announcement.
Yeah, he turned up for the press conference a little bit later than usual, but I didn't suspect that he would get sacked because of how well West Brom are doing and how well they've done since he took over a year ago from Alan Pardew. You know, they were always doomed to go down since he took over. There was nothing that he could do in the Premier League about that. But you know, he started things off really smoothly and won Manager of the Month. I think it was in April in the Premier League, and he's done really well in the Championship as well, up to 4th in the league. But the problem is the owners had the board had an expectation that the team was going to go up back to the Premier League this season through the automatic promotion spots, which are currently occupied by Leeds and Norwich. So it's going to be really hard for them to get that now because they're 9 points behind second place in 4th. So it's one of those things where you think you have to think really hard about it as to why they did it, and it is, I think, just because of that factor. And I think at the end of the day, you know, if it was agreed to with him and the board and said, okay, you have to be in the automatic promotion spots by this time, then if you're not, then you're going to get a sack. And I think that's what the situation has played out. I don't like some of these comments that some people have made that it's down to his colour and things like that. I don't think it's down to that at all, because otherwise I don't think he would have been given the job in the first place, because he's not exactly the most experienced manager. Essentially, he's been appointed like some of the other club legends have done in the past. You know, he is a club legend in a sense. He was part of the season, I think, when they made the Great Escape all those years ago, back in the early 2000s. And, you know, just like Ollie, just like Zidane at Real Madrid, you know, he is that manager that's come in that has previously played for the club and been a club legend for him in the past. So I think moving forward for Moore, I think he'll definitely get a job elsewhere. It's just a case of where and when, really.
I think what really frustrates people, even people outside of West Brom who are, you know, neutral, who don't support the club, just don't understand it because of the fact that there's only 2 months left, which is not a lot of football, really. And, you know, we're only down the road from the end of the season. And in fact, that they're still in the playoff spot. So the season isn't over yet.
Yeah,
so,
but they only picked up 4 wins in the last 12 games. They'd lost as well to Leeds and Sheffield United in the last 3 games too. So it always was essentially that nail in the coffin that the automatic promotion spot wasn't going to be up for grabs anymore, and it was going to have to be a run through the playoffs in order to return back to the Premier League. And as we've seen with so many teams in the past as well, if you don't return to the Premier League on the first time of asking, it can be really difficult of a league for the Championship to get out of.
Especially with Aston Villa.
Yeah, Aston Villa are only a couple of miles down the road. Birmingham have struggled ever since they've gone down to the Championship as well. They're not too far away either. Leeds are only just recuperating themselves from their own Premier League relegation over 10 years ago.
You can look at like Swansea and Stoke, what they've done this season. Were they 17th and 18th, I think?
Yeah.
Sheffield United only just really bouncing back as well. Norwich too. Well, I think Norwich were really, you know, a bit lucky in the sense that they managed to get Daniel Farkel in, and he's really helped the club because of, you know, his past experience with Borussia Dortmund. So it would be interesting to see how West Brom approach this and how they finished off the season, because in all honesty, I think he should have been given the end of the season at the very least, and then see what you're going to do from there. You know, at least, you know, with him in charge, you know that, you know, the club's going to be behind him, fans are going to be behind him, the team's going to be behind him, and they're going to try and get the results and go up through the playoffs back to the Premier League. But now it's a case of, is it in free fall or can they salvage this?
So. Jack, it's funny because someone I know on Facebook the other day is a big West Brom fan, and he even took a picture of his, let's just say, his middle finger towards the West Brom badge, and actually had a selfie with Darren Moore a few months back, you know, saying, you know, he's a club legend, etc. And he wasn't happy with the outcome of what happened on Saturday with Darren Moore being sacked. Do you feel as though, even though the form wasn't there for them, you know, you could still get a bit of momentum before the end of the season and then take that into the playoffs at least? What do you think of it all?
I sort of don't understand. I don't understand. I mean, I don't follow Championship football as well as Conor. I mean, Conor goes every week you know, to West Brom anyway, so you know, Conor knows more than me. But I'm just saying that for me, if I was a West Brom fan, I don't understand it. You know, I totally agree in the fact that you wait until the end of the season where you've got the whole summer to change the manager. The new manager then has time to have the summer to plan his tactics and his layout and what players he wants. Whereas now, who they're going to bring in, how much time is he going to have to salvage it? If it does go in free fall, like Conor said, they're not even going to get in the playoffs. So they've lost that. If they're not going to get in the automatic ones, they're not going to get in the playoffs. That's even worse, isn't it? Surely.
I think the two people that they got their eyes on at the moment, I think they're expected to make an appointment before the weekend. They've got a game on Wednesday against Bristol City, maybe.
And that won't be an easy game.
It's either Bristol City or Middlesbrough. I can't remember which one it is because both of those games are coming up soon, so neither of them are easy. But yeah, the two names that they got in mind, I think, is Jukanovic from Fulham, the former Fulham manager, and David Wagner from Huddersfield. So two Premier League experienced managers coming into the football club, potentially one or the other. I think probably Jukanovic is probably the target that they could probably get easier than Wagner, because I'm not too sure what Wagner's mindset is at the moment, because he kind of left the football club really at Huddersfield, didn't really get sacked in the end, did he?
Just walked out, didn't he?
Yeah. So I imagine he'll probably leave it until the summer at the very least. But yeah, Jukanovic has got the experience as well. That went a bit too far. Jukanovic's got the experience as well. With Fulham last season, took up through the playoffs, beating Villa in the final. So he's got that playoff experience already. It's just whether or not, if he comes in, if he's able to replicate that this season as well.
Andy, I mean, we talk about manager sackings nearly every week now on our show, because it's just modern day thing in football, where I've as some of you know, I always try and defend the managers as much as I can, because even if I don't support the club, I mean, you're used to it with Wrexham. You see managers come and go. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
But it's you must find it a bit annoying for West Brom, thinking there's still a chance. Okay, the form isn't there, but you've got a manager who knows the club in and out, has the fans behind him. You couldn't have got any more wrong, really.
No, and it's not like there's been massive investment there, and I don't think the squad that they had in place when they got relegated, it wasn't a standout squad for the Championship. There was if you look at it, there's a lot of players there that are Championship level. There's no real major stars. I mean, Jay Rodriguez is back this season and scoring goals, but it's one of those where you look at it and you think, what were the expectations? I think if I was a West Brom fan, you'd be looking at, when you get relegated, you're thinking, yeah, playoffs is probably about right, I think. Automatic might have been a bit too much, especially Norwich have been on fire. Leeds are blowing hot and cold a little bit, but have had some great results. But
especially against Derby the other week as well.
Yeah. But when that was it, the fact that if they're basing this on the fact of the last 4 games and Ipswich was the final nail in the coffin, it's like they've lost against Sheffield United and Leeds. They're good teams. It's no real disgrace in losing those games. But I suppose it's the home form, because they've not. I think it's one win at home since Boxing Day, is it?
Yeah,
or something?
the home form's not been great at all.
Yeah, but it's nobody's got any patience these days. You're thinking, like Jack was saying, it's like just at least give them till the end of the season. I'd say they're pretty much nailed on for playoffs. They're now 9 points off automatic promotion, but there's a nice safety blanket to make sure that they are in the playoffs, and they should be fine for that. But it's just, yeah, you might get that new manager bounce. It looks like it is Jukanovic. I was reading this morning that he's having second talks and they're hoping to get him in by Wednesday. But it's like, yeah, you might get that new manager bounce, but what if it goes the other way and you've just got a load of demoralised players? Because you've got to think, from what you see, they all seem to love Darren Moore, and he's gone. So what effects that going to have on them? Are they going to be spitting their dummy down in tools a little bit? It just seems a bit. It is modern football, which is why I'm a grumpy old so-and-so who reminisces about the good old days when managers were given time. But it's I suppose it is what it is. That's just the nature of the game these days, where if there is an instant success or the next season after relegation isn't an automatic bounce back, then owners haven't got the time and patience, and sometimes the fans haven't got the patience. I think with Darren Moore, he still had the fans on side. It's a strange one.
Because I remember, because I saw you at the train station when you're on your way back from the game
again,
and then you told me he's been sacked. I was like, that was the last thing I was expecting, at all in the news this weekend, thinking even if West Brom had lost 3-0, I was like, I don't expect him to get sacked.
Yeah, as Andy was saying, the home form has been great, and if you are to survive in the Championship, you really have to have strong home form, because you can go to any away ground in the Championship and have a really tough time of trying to get a result out of it. And with West Brom, they didn't have it at all. The loss against Sheffield United was a really tough one for them to take. They've had losses as well against Norwich too, and of course they had the away loss against Leeds all the way up in Elm Road, where they've really tried and need to get a result in order to get that gap closed down between them and the top two. I think the excitement for all West Brom fans will be now that, if Jukanovic does come in and bring a bit more of attacking football, they do have Jay Rodriguez and Dwight Gale that, in the high teens on the season in terms of goals. But other than that, they haven't really got anyone else that's been able to step up to the plate. They did have Harvey Barnes for the first half of the season, but then he went back to Leicester. So they lost a lot of attacking flair and playmaking ability from him. And I think if Jukanovic comes in, he'll bring that bit more of an attacking flair in now moving forward between now and the rest of the season at the very least.
Let's wrap it up then. Let's start with you, Andy. Do you think West Brom will at least make the playoffs, or at least do you think they can actually still get promoted?
No. I think that automatic promotion race is it's a 3-horse race for 2 spots between Norwich, Leeds, and Sheffield United. But I think they're guaranteed playoffs pretty much, unless the wheels really come off. I think they've got maybe a 9-point gap as well from the teams below the playoffs. So there's a safety net there for them. So they should be nailed down with that. But to put some perspective on it, if it's based on the last 4 games, that'd be the equivalent of Mauricio Pochettino. Fucking hell, language. That's one to be edited out. Pochettino to be that'd be like Pochettino getting fired at Spurs, as in he's drew 1 out of the last 4 games and had 3 defeats. It's just short termism at its worst. But playoffs. Short answer.
It's been too long, Andy. Jack, do you think they'll win the playoffs at all, or do you think they'll have to try again next season?
Well, again, like everybody else has said, it depends on what the effect the new manager has. If it's positive, then I still think they'll get into the playoffs. But it depends if the momentum swings one way or the other. I personally think they'll get into the playoffs, but I don't actually think they'll get promoted. I think they'll have to do it again.
Connor, what do you think? Just quickly mention, wouldn't it be weird as well if they won the playoffs and then people might start to forget about Darren Moore?
I don't think they'll forget, because I think the season overall has been largely affected because of Darren Moore's positivity.
That's a good point.
It's turned around. But I think West Brom have definitely got a playoff spot. It's just a case of trying to avoid Sheffield United or Norwich or whoever falls into that 3rd spot until the final. They can't afford to really slip down into 6, because I think if they do face Sheffield United and they aren't able to get a decent result in the first leg at home before having to travel to Sheffield United for the away one in the second leg, I think it could be a really tough time for them. So if they're able to play against Sheffield United or Norwich or whoever's in that 3rd spot in the final, then I think they've got a fair chance.